Welcome back to CIA Declassified. For decades, the name Area 51 has been synonymous with flying saucers and conspiracy, but the true story revealed in the 2013 declassification is far more complex and involves a sophisticated strategy of deception rooted in Cold War paranoia. The document at the heart of our discussion is the Central Intelligence Agency and Overhead Reconnaissance, the U-2 and Oxcart programs, officially designated CIA-RDP 2013-0001-A. Its release was prompted by a Freedom of Information Act request from the George Washington University's National Security Archive. They weren't asking about aliens, they were asking about the U-2 spy plane, and the CIA's response finally contained the unredacted history. The U-2 program was born of desperation. In the early 1950s, the U.S. had almost no reliable intelligence on Soviet nuclear capabilities. President Eisenhower needed eyes on the Soviet Union, and the solution was an aircraft that could fly so high it was untouchable by Soviet interceptors. The machine, the U-2, required a base that simply did not exist to the public. The location chosen for the U-2's top-secret testing was a desolate, dry lake bed in the middle of the Nevada desert known as Groom Lake. The remote desert location of Groom Lake was the ideal secret base. On April 12, 1955, Director Alan Dulles approved the site's acquisition. It was dubbed Area 51, though the Air Force often referred to it as Home Base or Watertown Strip to maintain plausible deniability. The name Area 51 originated from its designation on the old Atomic Energy Commission grid map used for nuclear testing in the adjacent Nevada test site. The base was initially primitive, a few temporary hangars, a single asphalt runway, and temporary housing for the small group of elite pilots, engineers, and support staff. The U-2's revolutionary impact the U-2 was designed by Kelly Johnson and the Lockheed Skunk Works team. It could operate at 70,000 feet and above. That's a big deal. This was the edge of the stratosphere, a full 30,000 feet higher than commercial and most military jets. The flights were critical. They provided the first genuine photographic evidence of Soviet military power, confirming that the bomber gap, often touted by politicians, did not exist. However, every time the U-2 flew, it created potential witnesses. This is where the mythology of Area 51 begins to intersect directly with CIA strategy. The U-2 was visually unique. It had large, sailplane-like wings and was painted black or dark blue for camouflage against the high-altitude sky. When a U-2 was flying its test runs over the western United States, it looked utterly baffling to ground and air observers. High altitude, it appeared as a small silver or black object moving at an unimaginable height. Sun reflection. At dawn or dusk, the sun reflecting off the wings often made it look like a glowing metallic disc. Quote, Number 1, from document CIA-RDP 2013-0001-A, Chapter 5, Section C. Reports of unidentified flying objects were often attributed to the high-altitude testing. Initially, the agency had to explain away the sightings, but quickly realized the utility of the extraterrestrial narrative as a convenient and highly effective cover story. The idea that these were flying saucers provided immediate, if illogical, plausible denial. End quote. The document confirms that when high-altitude sightings were reported, the CIA would often attribute them to natural phenomenon or, more deceptively, refer the queries to the Air Force Project Blue Book, knowing that the Blue Book investigators would never be granted access to the classified U-2 records. This intentional misdirection shifted the blame and the curiosity away from the U-2 and onto the realm of science fiction, giving the agency the perfect strategic advantage. The U-2, while revolutionary, was vulnerable, as Francis Gary Powers proved in 1960. The CIA immediately began testing its successor at Groom Lake, the A-12 Oxcart. The A-12 was a single-seat reconnaissance aircraft that could sustain speeds of Mach 3.2, that's over 2,200 miles per hour. It was the fastest air-breathing plane ever built and required even more stringent secrecy and testing than the U-2. Logistical secrecy, Project Roadrunner. The document dedicates an entire heavily redacted chapter to whatever Project Roadrunner is. the logistical effort to transport the A-12 components from Lockheed Skunk Works plant in California to Area 51, a journey of hundreds of miles. Another quote from a section detailing the A-12's test phase. The frequency of high Mach testing at Groom Lake between 1962 and 1968 meant a dramatic increase in high-speed, high-altitude sightings. The existing policy of attributing these objects to weather phenomenon or unexplained occurrences was successful in deflecting genuine investigation into the Oxcart program. End quote. The A-12's speed and unique shape, long, angular, and black, made it even more convincing candidate for alien technology. The UFO narrative, initially a happy accident, became a deliberately and systematically cultivated myth used by the CIA to protect their multi-billion-dollar Mach 3 program. While the 2013 release was a landmark in transparency, the heavily redacted sections, the black bars, are arguably the most important part of the document, as they point directly to the secrets the agency is still protecting. The redactions primarily occur after the official conclusion of the Oxcart program in 1968. We categorize the persistent redactions into three key areas. A, the post-1968 programs, the next generation secrets. The history study largely stops its detailed operational narrative with the retirement of the A-12 in 1968. The following pages are a desert of black ink. Hypothesis: these sections conceal the next wave of stealth technology that was developed and tested at Groom Lake throughout the 70s and 80s. This includes the prototype development of the F-117 Nighthawk stealth fighter and the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. While these programs were eventually declassified, their early most sensitive development phases, including unique sensor and radar absorbing material testing, are still protected. The CIA does not want to reveal the specific methodologies they used to test stealth capabilities that could still be relevant or compromise the security of current generation aircraft. The exact way the F-117 achieved its low radar cross-section, the shape, the materials, and the testing procedures remains a sensitive national security matter even today. B. Joint agency and foreign liaison complicity. The declassified portions make it clear that the Air Force, the AEC, and the CIA were all involved in managing the Area 51 narrative. However, sections detailing who exactly was informed about the base's true purpose are heavily censored. Hypothesis: these redactions protect the names of specific foreign intelligence services and allied governments that were either given classified access to the base or were instrumental in providing overseas logistical support for the U-2 and A-12 programs. Naming these liaisons could compromise current sensitive relationships with these allies, particularly regarding intelligence sharing protocols that still rely on absolute secrecy. Furthermore, it might reveal the extent to which other countries permitted or facilitated illegal U.S. overflights in the Cold War. C. The technical services staff and behavioral engineering. A few scattered redactions appear in early chapters related to the technical services staff and human factors engineering related to high-altitude flight. While not the main focus, these brief mentions are concerning. Hypothesis: these black bars relate to the psychological and physiological testing of pilots under extreme duress. Specifically, the effects of isolation, oxygen deprivation, and potentially even hallucinogens on pilot performance at extreme altitudes. The information is likely redacted due to privacy concerns for the deceased pilots and the desire to suppress any further public linking of the CIA's human experimentation history with its iconic aviation programs, which would open the door to political and legal challenges, of course. The document is not the final word on Area 51, but it is the final nail in the coffin of the extraterrestrial cover-up. It confirms that the CIA deliberately co-opted the UFO phenomenon to shield technologies that fundamentally reshaped modern warfare. The real secret of Area 51 was, and remains, the incredible pace of human aeronautical innovation. Please like this episode and share it with anyone who appreciates the true history behind the myths. Next, we're going to be diving into the most complex and opaque area of intelligence: money. We will dissect the origins and mechanics of the CIA's black budget and expose the financial engineering used to fund covert operations without congressional oversight. We'll analyze the recently declassified files related to proprietary companies, private corporations secretly owned and operated by the CIA. Here's a clue, by the way: Google and YouTube are those.
that served as untraceable funding and logistics fronts for everything from coups to arms trafficking. Join us for our next episode, CIA Declassified, the Black Budget and the Proprietary Secret. Until then, maintain your vigilance, question your own memory, and keep your critical thinking sharp. I'll see you in the archives.